I was raised by Ethan Foster, so when he asked me to take the fall for Olivia Scott, I didn't refuse. He said, "Camille, serve your time properly in there. When you get out, I'll marry you." 3 years later, I was released from prison. On the very day Ethan had prepared a grand wedding for me, in front of countless guests, I stood on the highest bridge over the river and jumped. "Uncle Ethan, this time, I don't want to marry you." 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The entrance of the River City Police Station remained as solemn as ever, its 2 stone lions standing guard, symbolizing justice and fairness. Snowflakes drifted down, just like they had on that winter night 3 years ago. Back then, I had been an enviable top student at a university, but overnight I became a murderer feared by everyone. That day was my 18th birthday, an age where one is legally an adult but far from truly mature. Olivia had been furious that Ethan threw a private birthday celebration just for me. In a fit of rage, she drank too much, got behind the wheel, and killed someone in a drunk driving accident. By the time Ethan and I arrived at the scene, all we saw was the lifeless victim lying in a pool of blood, and Olivia kneeling on the ground, her hair disheveled, panic written all over her face. She clung tightly to Ethan's pant leg, sobbing like a child. "Ethan, what do I do? What do I do? I didn't mean to. He ran into my car. It wasn't my fault." Even now, Olivia still refused to acknowledge her mistake. She kept pointing at the victim, shouting furiously, "It wasn't my fault. He ran into my car. He was crazy. He deserved to die. Shut up." A loud slap echoed in the air. Ethan struck Olivia across the face, finally silencing her hysteria. For a brief moment, her eyes locked onto mine, and a deep sense of unease settled in my chest. Then, as if flipping a switch, Olivia suddenly changed her attitude. Her voice turned weak and pitiful, tears welling up as she threw herself into Ethan's arms. "Ethan, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please, please help me. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to die." Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly exhausted, but his hand never stopped gently patting Olivia's back, silently comforting her. After a long pause, as if making a difficult decision, he finally spoke. "Olivia, you made a mistake. You have to face the consequences." She froze, disbelief flashing across her face. "What? You want me to go to prison?" Ethan hesitated. His voice was heavy with fatigue as he said, "Turn yourself in. I'll do everything I can to compensate the victim's family. I'll make sure your sentence is as short as possible, I promise." But Olivia pushed him away, her voice rising into a shriek. "No, no way. There are other ways. You just don't want to save me." "Olivia, be good." Ethan reached out to pull her back, but she pushed him away forcefully. "No. If you really wanted to save me, you'd find a better solution. Why should I go to prison?" Since childhood, Olivia had been spoiled like a princess, never having to suffer. Prison was no different from a death sentence to her. No matter how much Ethan tried to reason with her, she refused to listen. The Scott family had done Ethan a great favor in the past, so when it came to Olivia, he had always been lenient. Whatever she wanted, she got. Then Olivia's gaze shifted to me, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. A slow, malicious smile curled on her lips. "Ethan, who said there's no other way?" Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Let Camille take the fall for me. Problem solved." She pointed at me as she spoke. "Olivia." Ethan's voice roared with anger, and before she could finish her sentence, he slapped her twice. "Do you hear yourself? She's your niece." For a moment, I felt relieved. I thought Ethan would never agree to such an unreasonable demand. But Olivia, holding her swollen cheek, sneered, "That's nonsense. She's not my cousin. She's just some stray you picked up off the streets. You dressed her up like a rich girl, but do you really think she wants to be your niece?" Ethan's expression darkened. "What do you mean?" Olivia turned to me, a smirk on her lips. "Camille, am I right?" Ethan's voice was deep and heavy. "Camille, is what she's saying true?" At that moment, I looked at him, unable to speak. I loved Ethan Foster not just as an uncle, but I never expected Olivia Scott to notice my feelings. "Camille, don't you like my brother?" she said smugly. "If you take the fall for me, I'll approve of you two being together. I'll let you marry into the Foster family." Her voice dripped with satisfaction. "You wouldn't refuse to do me this small favor, would you?" "My marriage is none of your business." Ethan cut her off coldly. "This time, you have no choice. You made a mistake, so you have to turn yourself in. Serve your sentence properly. For a moment, I thought Ethan was finally being fair. For once, he was treating both Olivia and me equally. But how could I forget? I was just a stray he had taken in. Raising me until I was 18 was already more kindness than I deserved. The sound of sirens blared in the distance. The police were getting closer. Olivia did what she always did. She played the victim. Ethan, didn't you promise my dad you'd take care of me for the rest of my life? She clung to him, her voice trembling. Ethan hesitated, and in those few minutes of hesitation, the police arrived. The rain was pouring that night. A landslide had recently damaged the roads in this area, breaking the barriers. The security cameras hadn't been repaired yet. The rain washed away most of the alcohol scent on Olivia, leaving only the faintest trace. But as for me, she had poured the remaining half-bottle of red wine from the car all over my face, my clothes, even my mouth and nose. Ethan stood there watching everything she had done to me, stunned into silence, because he owed her. Olivia's father had died saving Ethan's life. That debt weighed on him. Why didn't I resist? Because I owed Ethan too. When Ethan picked me up from a pile of garbage, I was barely alive. If it weren't for him, I would have died long ago. He saved me, raised me for 8 years, gave me food, shelter, and the best education. When he remained silent, allowing Olivia to do this to me, I understood. It was time for me to repay my debt. The rain mixed with the wine, blurring the lines between the two. I couldn't tell which scent was stronger. By the time the police arrived, the alcohol smell on me was overpowering. The 3 of us were taken away. Ethan had no trace of alcohol on him. Olivia had only the faintest amount. But me, I reeked of it. Based on the evidence, I was the most suspicious. No one spoke up for me, and since I confessed to drunk driving myself, there was no saving me. Ethan hired the best lawyer for me. I don't know how much money he gave the victim's family. In the end, I was sentenced to 3 years in prison. At an age when I was still not fully grown, in the very year I turned 18, cold handcuffs locked around my wrists. All my panic, all my happiness, all my love and heartbreak, everything shattered in an instant. I became a young murderer, feared by all. Finally, one day, Ethan came to see me. "Camille, serve your time properly," he said softly. "When you get out, I'll marry you." That day, he leaned in and whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry. This is my debt to you." Perhaps it was guilt. After that visit, he never came again. For 3 years, he never looked for me. And now, as I was finally released, he was here to pick me up. It was the first time we had seen each other in 3 years. "Camille, I'm taking you home," Ethan said, reaching for my bag. Inside were just a few pieces of clothing, the same ones I had worn the day I was imprisoned. The bag itself was the one he had bought for me 3 years ago, the one I had carried when I was taken away. Now it was filthy and tattered. Ethan had always been a clean freak, but for once, he didn't seem to mind. We walked to his car. Out of habit, I reached for the back seat, but he grabbed my wrist, his voice soft. "Camille, sit in the front." I hesitated, glancing at the passenger seat. That seat used to belong to Olivia. Gently, I pulled my hand away, then opened the back door and slid in, placing my hands neatly on my lap. Ethan leaned slightly toward me. "It's been a long time, Camille. You don't call me brother anymore." I used to take advantage of how kind he was to me, deliberately mimicking Olivia and calling him brother too. It made my hidden feelings for him feel a little less wrong, but I only dared to call him that when Olivia wasn't around. The rest of the time, I called him Uncle Ethan. Ethan was only 8 years older than me. When I was 10, the 18-year-old him took me in. And at 18, on the night of my coming of age, I repaid his kindness by going to prison in Olivia's place. Sometimes I felt like fate was playing a cruel joke on me. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to swallow the bitterness rising in my throat. I was young and naive before. I understand things now. Ethan didn't say anything. We sat in silence until we reached the house. He opened the car door for me and helped me out, ever the gentleman. "Welcome home, Camille." As I stepped into the villa, I noticed the red lanterns hanging outside. It hit me then. It was already the new year. Ethan's parents had prepared a lavish meal, and the table was filled with dishes. Throughout dinner, they kept adding food to my plate, their enthusiasm overwhelming me. I wasn't used to this kind of warmth. My hands trembled slightly, and my chopsticks slipped from my grasp, falling to the floor. Olivia scoffed from across the table. See? A person who's never seen the world before, spent 3 years in prison and forgot how to use chopsticks. Shut up. If you don't want to eat, get out, Ethan snapped coldly. For the first time, he defended me against Olivia, but I didn't feel touched, only bitter. I must be sick. Ethan's mother, sensing the tense atmosphere, quickly changed the subject. She smiled and turned to me. Camille, now that you're out, we should start preparing for your wedding with Ethan. I've picked a few good dates. Later, you can take a look and choose one. We'll pick the most auspicious day. Ethan's father nodded in agreement. That's right, a wedding is a big deal, we can't be careless about it. Then he turned to Ethan with a stern face. After you two get married, you'd better treat Camille well. If you make her suffer, I'll be the first to come after you. Ethan chuckled and promised, Yes, Dad. I'll take good care of Camille. I won't let her be sad. But before he could finish, I interrupted him. I knelt before his parents. Gasps filled the room. Camille? What are you doing? Ethan's mother exclaimed. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't kneel like this, child. Ignoring their protests, I bowed 3 times, my forehead touching the floor. It was my way of repaying them for raising me all these years. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, I said, my voice steady, please forgive me. I can't marry Ethan. I respect him deeply, but I don't love him. Ethan's hand, which had been reaching toward me, froze. A trace of pain flickered in his eyes. You don't love me anymore? He asked quietly. Maybe I did once, I admitted, but not anymore. Not even a little. All I felt now was resistance, an icy, suffocating resistance. Uncle Ethan, I said, meeting his gaze, I never loved you. If I ever did anything to make you misunderstand, I'm sorry. I'll change from now on. Who asked you to change? Ethan's voice rose, sharp with frustration. His eyes were red, but I found the sight unbearable. I heard my own voice, firm and unwavering. Uncle Ethan, I've repaid everything I owed you. Silence fell over the dinner table, thick and suffocating. The meal continued in a tense atmosphere, and Ethan excused himself early, going upstairs to rest. I watched his retreating figure as he climbed the stairs, noticing the slight unsteadiness in his steps. Everyone thought I was ungrateful. After all, so many women would have killed for the chance to marry Ethan Foster, and yet I rejected him in front of everyone. Even later that night, when I went downstairs for a glass of water, I ran into Olivia. She sneered at me, arms crossed. Camille, who do you think you are? You think spending 3 years in prison makes you worthy of marrying my brother? What's there to be picky about? You should be grateful for the chance. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it in one gulp, then chuckled coldly. 3 years in prison? I set the glass down and looked her straight in the eyes. If it was such an easy thing to do, why didn't you go instead? Maybe that way you could actually marry him. I had no intention of arguing with Olivia any further. I just wanted to go upstairs and rest. But she clearly wasn't ready to let me go, continuing her taunts. Do you think everyone is like you, falling for their own uncle? How shameless. I let out a small, bitter laugh and turned to look at her. Her eyes burned with jealousy and resentment, as if poisoned. Oh, and liking your own brother makes you any less shameless? Olivia's face twisted in anger. You. She thought she had hidden it well, but her emotions were obvious. I hadn't wanted to argue with her, but I couldn't suppress the frustration in my heart. I knew I couldn't do anything to her, but I still wanted to break her arrogance, just a little. I may not be Ethan's biological niece, but you are his sister in every legal sense, aren't you? Olivia had been formally adopted into the Foster family. It had been publicly announced. The Fosters acknowledged her as one of their own, even granting her shares in the company. From that moment on, she officially became the Foster family's daughter. It was Ethan's father who had made this decision, to repay the debt he owed to Olivia's father, who had sacrificed his life to save Ethan. Legally and publicly, Olivia was Ethan's sister. But she never wanted to be his sister. She had feelings for Ethan, and because of that, she had always despised me. She knew I loved him too, so she made sure to target me in every possible way, always when Ethan wasn't looking. That night, after I changed into my pajamas, I suddenly heard a knock on the door. I thought Ethan was angry. I never expected him to come looking for me. Camille, are you asleep? His voice was softer than usual. Can I talk to you? Not yet, I answered quietly. The door wasn't locked, so Ethan walked straight in. Out of habit, I stood up immediately. My arms hung stiffly at my sides, my fingers curling slightly, a defensive posture I had unconsciously developed in prison. Ethan's voice was gentle, no longer cold and distant as it had been before. "Camille, I warmed some milk for you. Drinking it will help you sleep better." "Thank you." I reached out instinctively, but as my fingers brushed against his, my grip faltered. The glass slipped from my hand. Milk splashed onto the floor. The glass shattered. Panicked, I immediately crouched down to pick up the shards. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Uncle Ethan. I didn't mean to." I didn't even realize when my tears had started falling. Ethan pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. "It's okay," he murmured. "It's okay, Camille. I'm here." His embrace was warm, steady. I tried to push him away, but he held on, his grip firm. Because I was wearing short sleeves, he saw the scars on my arms almost instantly. "Camille, what happened?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "I slipped. It's nothing." I tried to ignore the memories clawing at the back of my mind. "Tell me, Camille." Ethan's voice was low, almost pleading. "Who did this to you?" "Don't." My thoughts spiraled into chaos. My breathing became uneven. I muttered mindlessly, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Please let me go. I don't love you anymore. It hurts. It hurts so much." "Camille, wake up. Do you want some water?" When I woke up the next morning, I was lying on a cold hospital bed. The first thing I saw was Ethan. The moment our eyes met, I instinctively curled up, retreating toward the wall, my body tense with defense. "Why am I here?" Ethan looked at me, guilt written all over his face. His voice was hoarse. "You passed out last night. I brought you to the hospital." I lowered my head, resting my forehead on my knees, unable to meet his gaze. I was terrified that he would ask me about my scars. I knew where they came from. The prisoners in there had taken money that Olivia had given them. A lot of money. Enough to ensure their families would never have to worry about food or shelter. Enough that they were willing to stay inside longer, to give up any chance of an early release, just so they could torment me. Bribing people in prison wasn't easy. Some of them were already due for release. Yet they still chose to stay. That meant Olivia had spent an unimaginable sum. And where did she get all that money? From Ethan. She could only use so much of her personal funds. For anything more, she had to take it from him. I wanted to believe that Ethan would never allow something like that to happen to me. But when everyone in there mocked me, accusing me of being shameless, of loving my own uncle, my will was slowly crushed, over and over again. I tried to convince myself that Ethan didn't know. But with each passing day that he never came to see me, my hope faded into despair. And now, his words shattered everything I had believed for the past 3 years. He looked at me with guilt in his eyes and said, "Camille, I'm sorry. I didn't know Olivia did so many terrible things to you. Don't worry. I won't let a single one of those people get away with it. I've already reported everything to the police this morning. Olivia has been taken away, and as for the people who tormented you in prison, they'll never see the outside world again." I stared at him stunned. "Uncle Ethan, you didn't know?" My voice was hoarse. "I thought you did." "Then why? Why didn't you come see me?" "Not even once." Ethan reached out, as if to take my hand, but I instinctively stepped back, avoiding his touch. His expression dimmed and his voice carried a hint of helplessness. "Camille, I would never do that to you. But you never came." For the first time, I voiced the question that had been buried deep inside me for 3 years. Pain and guilt filled his gaze. His voice was strained. "I'm sorry, I didn't know how to face you." So that was it, but it didn't matter anymore. There were things I still needed to do. I didn't want to dwell on this painful conversation any longer, so I changed the subject. "Uncle Ethan, when can I be discharged?" Seeing that I was no longer pushing him away, a faint smile appeared on his lips. "You can leave now," he said gently. "You just got back, and you don't have many clothes. Let's go shopping. I'll take you to the mall." I hesitated for a moment before nodding. "All right." I did need a few things. He took me to the largest shopping center nearby. Normally, Ethan wasn't fond of shopping, but today he was unusually patient. Every time I so much as glanced at an outfit, he had it packed up and bought immediately. Before I knew it, he had already bought me more clothes than I could ever need. But all I felt was burdened. No matter how much he tried, I couldn't bring myself to be happy. I knew something inside me was broken, deeply, irreparably broken. Maybe I would never be able to heal. I wished time could turn back. I wished I had never met him. I wished he had never saved me. Then there wouldn't have been so much pain between us. As we stepped out of the mall, 5 or 6 middle-aged people stormed toward us. Their faces were filled with rage, their hands clutching bags filled with vegetables and eggs. The moment they saw me, they hurled their eggs straight at me. "You murderer, why don't you just die? Give me back my son. Give me back my son." I understood immediately. They were the family of the man Olivia had killed that night. The eggs cracked against my head. The sticky, rancid yolk dripped down my face. Ethan shielded me with his body. His deep blue suit was soon covered in smashed vegetables and rotten eggs. He held me tightly in his arms, whispering, "Camille, it's okay. I'm here." But all I could hear, all I could see was that winter night 3 years ago. The lifeless body covered in blood. Olivia kneeling on the ground, crying, her voice telling me to take the fall for her. And then, the prison. The screams, the insults, the contempt. "She's disgusting. Falling for her own uncle, shameless. I wonder what kind of parents raised a girl like her. She must have done something awful to end up in here. If I had a daughter like that, I'd rather die." Their hands had grabbed at my clothes, tugging at my pants. "Let's see if she's really as innocent as she pretends to be. Didn't expect her to still be clean, huh? Why are you crying? You think you're better than us just because you're young? You're just as filthy as the rest of us." That night, my 18th birthday, became my eternal nightmare. The girl I once was, Camille, full of life and hope, died that winter. I didn't even realize Ethan had carried me back to the car. When I came to my senses, I noticed the mess I had made. The back seat was covered in yolk and vegetable leaves. My dress was filthy. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I dirtied your car." "It's okay, Camille. It's not dirty," Ethan said gently. "I'll have someone clean it later." He was lying. It was filthy, disgustingly filthy. For 3 years, people in prison had done the same thing, dumping their leftover food on me, letting the soup and grease stain my clothes. My pants had been soaked in filth just like this, over and over again. That was why, for years, the sight of food made me sick. I couldn't stomach it. The warden used to say I was lucky, that I was privileged, yet I still dared to be picky. The inmates said I was promiscuous, that I messed around with men. The rumors spread like wildfire. People whispered behind my back. Whenever we were let outside for sunlight, everyone kept their distance from me. "Don't touch her. She's bad luck." I flinched when Ethan reached out with a tissue to wipe my face, instinctively recoiling from his touch. Pain flickered in his eyes before he pulled me into his arms, stroking my hair over and over. "Camille, you're not dirty," he whispered. "You're the cleanest girl in the world." But kind lies like that didn't bring any comfort. If only I had heard those words back then. I broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably, my heart aching so badly I could barely breathe. Clutching the front of his shirt, I choked out, "You're lying to me." "I'm sorry, Camille," Ethan murmured. "I was wrong. I won't lie to you ever again, okay?" But it was too late. Too late for everything. Ethan wiped away my tears and kissed my cheeks over and over, whispering, "Don't cry, Camille. I was wrong. I should have never let this happen to you." After that day, Ethan took me to see a psychiatrist. The doctor said my condition had worsened. Ethan hadn't wanted me to know, but I overheard everything. The doctor said I needed family around me, that I shouldn't be left alone. So Ethan started staying with me every day. He no longer buried himself in work. He was rarely away from home. Even when he had to work, he took me with him. Olivia was gone. No one bullied me anymore. Every night, Ethan read me bedtime stories. He watched childish cartoons with me. When a drama made me cry, he cried with me. When I laughed, he was happier than anyone else. His emotions seemed to shift with mine, as if I were the center of his world now. Everything felt too good, too unreal. I knew he was trying to make up for what had happened, but not everything in this world could be fixed. Some things, once lost, were lost forever. One day, Ethan had to leave on a business trip. He was reluctant to go, hesitant to leave me alone. But whatever he was doing, he clearly didn't want me to know. To reassure him, I pretended I was fine. I promised I'd stay home and wait for him to come back. The doctor also said my condition had improved, that I didn't need constant supervision anymore. Ethan finally relaxed a little. Before leaving, he gave me a list of reminders and even prepared several days' worth of meals to make sure I wouldn't go hungry. That night, I woke up suddenly. I was hungry, but I didn't feel like eating a full meal. I decided to have an apple before going back to sleep. As I peeled it, the knife slipped and cut my finger. I watched as blood welled up from the wound. For the first time, I didn't want to stop the bleeding. A thought flashed through my mind. What if I just died? But the thought only lasted for a moment. Before I could do anything, Ethan's white cat knocked the knife from my hand, sending it clattering to the floor. The cat was pure white, its fur as pristine as snow. A single drop of my blood landed on its fur. I felt guilty, like I had tainted it. Panicking, I grabbed the first aid kit, hurriedly wrapping my finger with a bandage. Then I scooped up the cat, holding it close. "I'm sorry," I whispered over and over. "I'm sorry, Snowball. I didn't mean to." I stroked its fur, my voice trembling. "Let's go take a bath, okay?" Just as I was giving the cat a bath, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "Camille, what are you doing?" I glanced at the cat, its white fur covered in bubbles, and answered, "I'm giving the cat a bath." There was a brief silence on the other end. Then Ethan's voice came through, sounding slightly off. "Really? Show me." I turned the camera toward the cat. "Isn't he cute?" Ethan chuckled softly, but something in his voice didn't sound right. "Yeah," he said, "he's cute, just like you." I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Ethan asked, "Camille, why do you like white cats?" I thought for a moment before answering. Maybe, because they're clean. Like snow. Unlike me. I've already rotted away. After a long silence, I thought Ethan had fallen asleep. But then he murmured, "Camille, you're just like Snowball, as pure as snow." Too bad I wasn't Snowball. In that moment, an eerie silence stretched between us. Then Ethan suddenly said, "Camille." I knew what he was about to say. Another apology. I hurriedly hung up the phone. I was terrified of hearing his apologies because they made it feel like nothing had ever happened. Ethan wanted to go back to how things used to be. But I couldn't. We were even now. He didn't owe me anything, and I didn't want his guilt. That night, after bathing the kitten, I brought it upstairs and let it sleep beside me. For the first time in a long time, I slept well. When I woke up, Ethan was downstairs packing his things. I hadn't expected him to come back so soon. Hugging the kitten, I waved at him. "Snowball, that's your uncle," I said softly. "Meow." Snowball obediently greeted Ethan. Ethan came over, ruffling my hair. "Camille, you're awake. Come with me on this business trip." I didn't want to leave the house, but I knew he wouldn't feel at ease leaving me alone. He didn't seem to notice my kitten, so I reminded him, "Uncle, I want to bring the cat with me. Is that okay?" Ethan chuckled. "Of course." He helped me place Snowball in a travel carrier, and we headed to the airport together. Ethan made arrangements for the cat's transport, and we boarded the plane. The moment we arrived, the first thing I did was go find Snowball. He sat quietly in his carrier, waiting for me to pick him up. But just as I got close, he suddenly bolted. I panicked and ran after him, calling his name over and over. But he was too fast. He dashed onto the road. And then, a car hit him. Blood splattered everywhere. "Camille?" I heard Ethan's voice shouting behind me. Before I could react, he grabbed me, holding me back. Tears streamed down my face as I screamed, "Uncle, my cat, they killed my cat. Snowball is dead, he's dead." People around us started whispering, "She must be crazy. She was about to throw herself in front of a car." "Yeah, maybe she's not right in the head." "Didn't you hear her yelling about a cat?" "I didn't see any cat. Probably just some lunatic." "Shh, stop talking. Look at that man beside her. His eyes are terrifying. Let's get out of here." I looked back at the spot where Snowball had been hit. There was nothing there, no blood, no body. There had never been a cat. It had all been in my head. It was all a lie. I was the one who wasn't normal. "Uncle Ethan," I whispered, my voice shaking. Is what they're saying true?" Ethan cupped my ears with his hands, his voice soothing but firm. "Camille, don't listen to them. You're fine. You're completely fine. Snowball isn't dead. You just saw it wrong. Let's go home. I'll buy you another one. No, two. A pair. They'll have lots of kittens, okay?" I knew he was lying. My mind was deteriorating. I was starting to hallucinate. Ethan didn't know, but every time he lied to me, he would cover my ears, like that would stop me from hearing the truth. But I always heard everything. Dazed, I let him take me back to the hotel. It was a Foster-owned hotel. Ethan always stayed here when he traveled. Because of me, he had delayed his meetings. That night, he didn't leave. He stayed by my side the entire time. But I didn't want to be with him. I had thought that with Snowball I wouldn't be alone anymore, that I finally had something of my own. But it had all been a lie. Nothing in this world truly belonged to me. I couldn't hold on to anything. I couldn't get anything I wanted. Just like how I once loved Ethan, yet I went to prison for him instead. I never even liked animals. I only liked Snowball. And even he was just my imagination. That night, as I drifted between sleep and wakefulness, I heard Ethan on the phone with the doctor. "Camille's condition is getting worse," he said, his voice tight with worry. "She started having hallucinations." "Doctor, what should I do?" I watched as Ethan buried his face in his hands, crouching on the floor. Unable to suppress his sobs, it was my fault. Every time Ethan apologized to me, I felt nothing but pain. Because every apology of his was always accompanied by something terrible. When Olivia stole my toys, he would say, "Camille, I'm sorry. I'll buy you another one, okay?" When Olivia deliberately called him, claiming she had missed the last bus and couldn't get home, Ethan would drop everything to go pick her up. That night, I had no umbrella. The rain poured heavily, drenching me as I waited beneath the ruins of an abandoned wall. I waited for him until late at night, until I developed a high fever. And once again he told me, "I'm sorry, Camille. It was my fault." Ethan had compromised for Olivia countless times, but never once for me. He always said it was his fault. He always said sorry. But in truth, I wanted to tell him he wasn't the problem. I wasn't good enough. That was why he only ever had time for Olivia. That was why, when I took the fall for Olivia, he never spoke up for me. But this was my debt to him. Uncle Ethan was cruel. He saved me, yet over and over, he let me suffer. Sometimes I wished I had died the year he picked me up. Then I wouldn't have fallen in love with him. Then I wouldn't have felt this pain. During those 3 years, I had hoped, prayed, that he would visit me, that he would give me a reason to hold on. I wanted to tell him that everyone was hurting me. I wanted to beg him to save me. I was reaching my limit, but he never came. Not even once. The next morning, Ethan had to leave for a meeting. He was reluctant to leave me alone in the hotel, but after I repeatedly promised that I wouldn't run away, that I would wait for him obediently, he finally left. But Ethan didn't trust me. He was afraid I would do something foolish. Before he left, he locked the door from the outside. He had all the sharp objects removed from the room. He even installed surveillance cameras in our suite. But he didn't know. Before I went to prison, I was a top student at a university. These precautions couldn't stop me. I wanted to leave him a letter before I left. There was so much I wanted to say, but I didn't know where to start. In the end, all I wrote was a few simple lines. "Uncle, I wish you well. If there is a next life, I hope we never meet again. I don't hate you for making me take Olivia's place. I owed you that. From now on, we are even. After I die, don't come looking for me. Don't build a grave for me. I just want to leave quietly, alone. This is my last request. Thank you." I disabled the hotel's surveillance cameras, and then I left for the riverbank. There was a bridge here, the tallest in River City. It was the place Ethan had found me all those years ago. I stood on the edge, staring down at the rushing waters below. The night wind brushed against my ears, whispering softly, "Camille, jump. Jump, and the pain will be over. No one will hurt you anymore. No more Olivia looking down on you. No more cruel voices in the prison. No more people throwing rotten eggs at you. No more strangers wishing for your death. Let them all get what they want." On the day Camille died, she saw the thousands of city lights illuminating River City. She saw the brightly decorated Foster Hotel, glowing with celebration. She saw Ethan running toward her, desperately trying to reach her. She saw the grand wedding he had promised her. She saw the life-sized cutouts of the bride and groom, her and Ethan. But she was tired of this world, full of malice and cruelty. That night, she jumped from the highest bridge in River City. She was only 21. Alternate ending. Ethan's revenge. On the day Camille died, everyone said the Foster family's golden prince had gone insane. Ethan spent hundreds, thousands, even millions more than Olivia had ever paid. He bribed the people in prison. He ordered them to do to Olivia what they had done to Camille, every single thing, down to the very last detail. But he left only one command. Don't let her die. Make sure she suffers. Make sure she begs for death. The people who took his money did their job well. They followed his orders to the letter. They didn't let Olivia die, but they made sure she suffered, made sure she was left in ruins. Everyone thought Ethan had shown Olivia some mercy. Until the winter 10 years later. Someone recognized the once glorious heir of the Foster family, now barely in his late 30s, with streaks of white in his hair. Every day he visited the cemetery and spoke to the girl buried there. For 10 years, without fail. That day, people saw him gently tracing the photograph on her tombstone. His voice was hoarse, worn down to a rasp like an old man in his 70s. Camille, this is the last time I'll visit you. It wasn't until later that people realized that day marked Olivia's release from prison. She had survived, she hadn't died from the torment in prison. Yet she was found dead at the riverbank alongside Ethan Foster, the same river where Camille had died. Only then did the world understand. Ethan never spared Olivia. He had been waiting for revenge. In his suicide note, they found 2 simple lines. If there is a next life, I will follow behind her. Only to atone for my sins, only to see her happy. At Camille's grave, they discovered something else. The name on the tombstone had been personally scratched out by Ethan, the name that once read Camille Walker. Now it bore no name, no home, no belonging. Ethan, the day Camille died. The day Camille died, I pretended to be out for a meeting, but in truth, I was preparing for our wedding. I wanted to take responsibility for her. Even though I knew she didn't need my responsibility. Even though I knew she didn't want to marry me. I still couldn't let go of my selfishness. That morning, as I left the house, an ominous feeling settled in my chest. But I pushed it aside, drowned in the joy of our upcoming wedding. Maybe fate had seen my selfishness. Maybe that's why she was taken from me. A punishment. That day I locked myself in my room for 3 days and 3 nights. Over and over, I hated myself. Why did I survive when Olivia's father saved me? Why didn't I stop Olivia? Why didn't I defend Camille? I hated that I owed Olivia's father, that I had spent my life cleaning up Olivia's messes. I blamed everyone else for what happened. But when it was too late, I realized the biggest mistake was mine. I was the reason Camille died. I was the one who should have taken responsibility for Olivia's crime. I was the one who should have exposed her. But it was too late. The day Camille died, I found the letter she left me. She said we were even. She told me not to come looking for her after she was gone, but I still went against her wishes. I secretly had a monument built for her. I wanted to carve her name into stone. Camille Walker, forever at peace. But in the end, I scratched it out. I wasn't worthy of her love, and she didn't want me to do this for her. She had written that in the next life, she never wanted to see me again. I knew she didn't wish for another life, but I was reckless. I wanted her to have a second chance. I wanted her to be happy. So I went to the most sacred temple in River City. I knelt on the stone steps for days, praying for her. In her name, I rebuilt the ancient temple that had once stood there. I prayed that if she had another life, she would be safe and happy. She told me not to visit her grave. I went anyway, because this was the only life I had. 10 years later, Olivia was released from prison. I knew it was time for me to leave. One last time, I visited the temple. I made my final prayer. If she has no next life, give her mine. If she does, let me atone. If she wants nothing to do with me, then let her take all my fortune and luck. Let me disappear from her world forever. I knew this was nothing more than my own desperate attempt at comfort, because no one knew what the next life held. I only hoped that in some other world she would meet someone kind. One last time, I visited Camille. That day, I traced her photograph with my fingers. I sat beside her and talked for hours, as if trying to say everything I had never said in this lifetime. By the time I looked up, the sky had already brightened. I handed the police a letter, a confession of the truth behind the drunk driving accident 13 years ago. I knew it was too late, but the truth was still the truth. I wanted to clear Camille's name. I had broken the law by covering for Olivia. That was my sin. I admitted my guilt. After that, I went to find Olivia. That night, at the riverbank where Camille had died, everything came to an end. Camille, As I fell from the bridge, I thought it would be the end. But instead of sinking into the cold, dark water, I woke up gasping for breath, warm sunlight streaming through the cracks of an old, tattered shelter. I was no longer drowning. I was 10 again. I was back in the dirty alley where I had scavenged for food, back before Ethan found me. But this time, I made a different choice. When the rich young man passed by, the one with cold eyes and an air of untouchable elegance, I didn't approach him. I didn't reach out my hand. I didn't let Ethan Foster take me home. I turned away, and my life took an entirely different path. A kind old woman who ran a small food stall nearby noticed me. She had always given me leftovers in my past life, but I had never paid her much attention before. This time I did. She took me in, gave me food, and let me help at her stall in exchange for shelter. I learned to work. I learned to survive on my own without Ethan, without Olivia, without the Foster family's tangled web of debts and obligations, and without the pain. Years passed, and I grew up in a simple but fulfilling life. I went to school, worked hard, and built a future that belonged only to me. One day, while walking through a bustling street, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure, Ethan Foster, now a successful businessman, surrounded by bodyguards, as cold and distant as I remembered. But this time, our eyes never met. This time, I was just another stranger in the crowd, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt free. I smiled and turned away, walking toward the life I had chosen, one filled with warmth, love, and happiness, the life I had always deserved.